Welcome to Midpoint, OCC's midweek podcast aimed at helping you connect with last week's message and prepare you for next week's sermon. Let's dive in.
All right. Shoot, how does it start? It starts,
Welcome to
Midpoint, your midweek connection to Orchards Community Church. And then last week, Pastor James was not on stage, although that is this week coming up, because we're recording this before this is actually showing, or playing.
Yes,
So we're being good stewards of our time so we can spend time with our family.
that's correct.
So,
yes.
yeah, it is the, 19th?
20th.
20th today.
20th. Tomorrow is the longest night of the year, I believe.
Man, I have not really
solstice.
this is not in the script, but I have not really liked how early the sun has been going down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Erlene and I were talking about what to do when it's like 4:30 and it's dark.
Oh, yeah.
And it's freezing outside, and it's like, well, your kids are still awake. Figure it out.
Yes.
And it's like, well, we can watch, Bluey for another 2 hours, or we can try to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. That for us has been really tough too. It was probably one of the hardest things. Even after Andre was born in October, and it was just really, almost, I don't know, haunting is the right word, but like we just were headed into long nights, and like we had a newborn baby.
And when that sun goes down too, like there's something about it. I mean, you can have a religious message if you want to that, but really it's just like when the sun goes down, it's like, this is going to be a long night when you have little kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when the sun comes up, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Joy truly does come in the morning.
Yeah, God's graces are renewed.
Yeah.
Every morning.
Even in the middle of summer for us, when the sun was coming up at 4 a.m, it was like we
I
made
can breathe
it.
again.
We made it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool how that happens. But yeah, it's so like I'm glad that we are now on the tail end or past the mid. Well, tomorrow would be, by the time you hear it, we are now past that point of the
Winter solstice.
Winter solstice. I don't know.
I think it's tomorrow. Maybe it's the 23rd. I don't know. But
But it's
we're
coming
right
up
there.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're close.
it's coming up close. So, all right. This is going to be a different podcast. We're not really doing a review of the previous message because this is coming out for Christmas or after Christmas.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a 2022 year in review brought to you by Wesley and Brenton. And we're going to start by talking about the changes this year. And one of the biggest changes has been our stage.
Construction in general.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like our whole church has been in construction pretty much this whole year, it feels like.
Yes.
But it kind of started, it started before me, but a lot of the big changes happened because of my push to get a different stage. So I'm going to talk about that real quick. You can chime in whenever you want. But so we wanted to have a different stage because in light of us now broadcasting and streaming and everything like that, we really wanted the visual appeal of the stage to look better. And then in doing so, there were other things like cables on the ground, and so we wanted stage pockets. We wanted a different material. We wanted a bigger stage. We wanted an area for the band to be at during the service and not kind of be out in the lobby talking and things like that, but then also give them a way to kind of just appear on stage without having to walk behind the pastor while he's praying and talking. All of those things that, for the people in the services, you're not really going to notice. You'll notice that, there's curtains up, or there's, it's a bigger stage, or there's flooring or something like that. And maybe there aren't as many cables, but I think for the people watching the stream, they're going to see the biggest impact in this year and in the years to come as we update our lights and our cameras and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to see the better changes that will help enable them to just enjoy the services better. So we were trying to do that, but in doing so, we had to pull out we had to move the library, we had to move some of our storage. Our old stage was, it served its purpose and it was great. But for the direction that we wanted to go, I had to, rip that out, and that disrupted a whole lot of stuff. But in the process of changing storage and then now moving the library, then the library had to go somewhere. So then the library kind of moved to the old children's wing, and then that affected you. And then we had to do downstairs and all that fun stuff. So that was my construction project.
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of brushed on it, but this really was a vision cast by Cameron originally, not that, and so it was nice that you were able to come in and kind of know that. I know ministry council and staff had kind of prepped you for that kind of stuff. And
I saw some of his plans. We were pretty similar even before I saw his plans.
Yeah.
We were pretty similar.
He didn't know about the roadblocks. Yes. Because your original plans and what ended up happening weren't exactly the same. But I think the way it turned out, all of that stuff aside, that stuff's going to happen.
I think Cameron would have been happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he ever comes back to
right.
lead worship or something.
Lead worship, yeah. Fill in for you on a Monday night or something.
Shout out to Cameron if you ever want to come out to Lewiston.
That's right.
You jump right in.
Yeah. So the and actually some of this stuff, I mean, really did. I can't remember the exact timeline, but we knew one of the things about Orchards Community Church that's just always just been. I don't want to say a struggle because I feel like we overcome it, but we don't have a separate worship auditorium and separate like banquet space for weddings and funerals or just events. We have to tear down and set up.
Yeah.
We have to go back and forth, and even during events, many people that have attended here for any length of time have seen where we do something and then tear it all down, put tables in there, and then do the dinner afterwards.
Yeah, have to turn it around, make it look completely different.
Yeah, and that's always been a struggle. And one of the things that involves is we have to have a place to put chairs, and we have to have a place to put tables. In fact, we have to have 2 sets of chairs because we have the soft chairs we use on Sundays,
and the wipeable chairs.
Yes. Yeah. And in a commercial space, that's just a necessary thing. I mean,
I will say though, it is a blessing that we have a building where we can do that. I mean, like we're not like a mobile church, or we don't have so small of a space that we can't have events. But just because we have all those events, like we need to be able to accommodate all the different types of things that will go on here between Sunday service, funerals, weddings, parties, different ministries, things like that. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
That's. I mean, I totally agree. And one of the things with that storage of chairs and tables and those things is it needs to be convenient storage. I actually think that we have a ton of storage on this campus. We have a lot of storage that isn't convenient for a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's very distant or like behind my office, like it's hard to get to.
Yeah, upstairs and stuff.
Yeah, you're not packing tables and chairs up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could put chairs in the garage and just deal with that. But yeah, that's not very
But even
feasible.
even like this weekend, you have an event go on and like, are we going to
past weekend? It already happened.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, technically 2 past weekends.
we need to house all those chairs.
And then we're gonna wheel them through the snow and the ice. That's a big problem.
Yeah.
So it's one of the questions that came up is just how can we gain some efficient storage, and those things that need to be moved a lot need to be as close as possible to just prevent damage. I mean, it's just a necessary. It's just when you move that stuff, like it's just bound to happen. And so the more we can limit that, the better. And we also want to enable people to be able to set up and tear down their own events.
Yeah.
And so all of that convenience is really important. And so we'd started. It was actually last fall, and this is where I can't remember if you were here yet or not.
Last fall. You mean like fall of 2021?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would have either been right as you got here or it could have been slightly before, but we were just talking about like where can we gain storage. We unfortunately knew the library was going to need to move because that was just that's you can't get rid of the kitchen for multiple reasons. And then the next closest room is the library.
Yeah.
And it's got the door on the end there.
2 access doors. And so,
yeah. So that, unfortunately, that decision was just kind of where it was at. And so we were just kind of brainstorming ways to get more space. And one of the things that we came up with was moving the nursery downstairs. And that nursery area is, I think it's right at 1,500 square feet. So it's a pretty good size space up there.
Yeah.
And truthfully, the thing about children's is like we have a lot of great space and those kind of things, but there's big chunks of the week it sat empty.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't getting used for really anything. the other thing that was just hard, one of the things I think made sense about moving the nursery that I was on board for is just having all of children's in one space for families that are dropping off on Sundays. Like going to 2 separate spaces that were very far apart was difficult. And then also just like a unity of team.
Having everybody in the same spot does make sense.
Yes. Yeah. And there's definitely going to be sacrifices that need to be made for that. So we had kind of made the decision that obviously was going to have to be the first phase. So that's why it started. It actually was supposed to be done by VBS.
Is it done yet?
I mean, it's
usable.
It's usable, yeah.
Very usable.
The stuff that isn't done is finish work, and then we bumped the decoration part of it to 2023.
Okay.
So that stuff is continuing, but yeah, it's fully usable at this point.
Yeah.
And
I think it's good for you too, because now you're not going back and forth and going up and down stairs and getting your steps in the first 3 hours of Sunday.
Yeah, in an emergency, which I mean I wouldn't say we have like major emergencies, but we're short staffed or like we need to go get a parent for an upset child or whatever. It was very difficult for me to go between the 2 spaces and not get interrupted. Like I would take every shortcut I could in between, but like I would just get interrupted in between. And some of the times those things are good, but sometimes when I need to get between the space, like I don't want to have to be rude to people and stuff either.
Yeah.
And so that all of that makes it easy. It also makes it easier for the team. Like if we do have emergencies, like we can move volunteers around because we're all in the same space.
Yeah.
We can battle things together.
And there's also the security thing too, of having all the kids in one spot and then being able to basically secure the doors.
Yes.
And ensure that, I mean, you're going to have runners and stuff like that, but you at least know where they're coming from and where to send them back and that kind of stuff. So that security of not allowing people out, not allowing kids out, not allowing people in is important for that. So having it all downstairs was kind of an added like, oh yeah, that's kind of a cool thing.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, I think all of that stuff, there's definitely a sacrifice of space, but I think a lot of the wins are really positive.
Yeah.
And then going back to the library will actually gain a little bit of space, doing the library and then a children's. They're going to do a children's section across the hall, which will also kind of double as the mom's nursing room.
Yeah. So if moms want to nurse or take care of their infants or whatever, and still be a part of this, because we're going to get a stream in there as well, and so they can watch the service. They'll just be in another room, but they'll still be a part of the service.
Exactly. And then there will essentially be in the big nursery room. What was the big nursery room? There'll be another D1, which those spaces we desperately need.
Yeah.
I mean, we had at one point 2 groups were meeting on separate ends of the worship center, I believe, because it was just we needed space.
Yeah. And now that room will have access to a bathroom that they can just kind of come in and come out and
it has an outside entrance, which is also makes those rooms ideal. Not having to go through the whole church and unlock the whole church. So all that stuff is really exciting. That was definitely phase 1. And we just really started getting the chairs and tables and stuff moved over to the library. Yeah. And some of that I think was hopefully going to be done before the stage, but the stage kind of got a push that we had a deadline
because they were coming.
They were coming, and the holidays were coming, and so they got shuffled around a little bit. And we just only have so much bandwidth.
Yeah. It was really like what are those games that you play where you have like one empty block, and then there's like 9 other blocks, and you have to move the blocks with like one empty space and then get it to where you get the ball out or something like that.
Yes.
That's what it felt like during this year. It was just like, all right, we need to do this with the stage, but in order to do that, we have to do the library. But in order to do the library, we have to move the kids. And in order to move the kids, we have to do this. And so it was just a shuffle back and forth. And I mean, praise God that we were able to do ministry in the midst of that, because there were so many, like, I remember like midweek a couple times just going like, I don't know how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is a lot. And I know you were setting up. That you said like for a while you were just like taking down the nursery,
send them back up every week.
Yeah. And I did that for like a month on the worship stage, and I was like, this is miserable. Like, this is a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, you had the worship team help me one night at like 9:30 at night.
Yeah, after our practice.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah. And you were like, thank you so much. We were going to be here till like 11 or something. Yeah. But God's good. Like we were able to get stuff done, but man, hopefully any other phases won't be as tedious, which I know. So I have more phases coming in either 2023 or even 2024, because we're going to redo the lights so that the lights will kind of impact us a little bit better for the visual side of things in service, but also for the stream. And then we're also going to update the cameras as well. But I don't think there's much construction going on with that other than like, electricity or something like that. But I don't think we're building another anything.
Yes.
Do you have another phase coming too, or is this
just the decorate? The biggest thing is where the check-in is now.
Okay.
I mean, it'll essentially work the same, but
it'll be a lot nicer.
Yeah.
And decorated and
and I broke the wheel off the one cart, so it's got a mean lean to it. No more leaning carts.
Yeah. Well, we're starting to get some of those decorations in that room, right outside the kitchen. What is that called? The foyer.
The old foyer.
Old foyer. Okay. I don't know yet. Still.
Yeah.
But in the old foyer, we're starting to get some decorations in there. I know Katie and Erlene and Helena, and they're putting up some stuff.
Yep.
Helena and I always said Helena, but it's Helena, and Erlene and Katie are putting up some designs and stuff and making it look really cool.
Yeah.
But that'll come in the next couple of weeks. But anyway.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. One of the hard things about just where our children's is at is just it's not very visible. And we've wrestled with all sorts of things to make it more visible, and it's a tough spot.
Yeah.
It's a
when
tough
you want
spot.
people when they walk in, you want them to go, oh, okay, there's the bathroom, there's the coffee, there's the auditorium, there's where I drop off the kids. And I think we have some of those set, but that's the challenge. And so we're trying to do it. And we appreciate everybody's patience and grace.
Yeah.
We know it's not been easy for you guys to walk into church and really go, oh, I can't go in this room right now, or oh, I can't walk over here, or the band is a lot closer than. Like why are the chairs on? Shop. Why are the chairs on top of each other? This is weird. So just we thank you for being with us and still supporting the ministry and still supporting us and being gracious and understanding. Hey, this is. Temporary. We're working towards a better future, a more impactful future for the ministry and for the message that we're trying to preach about Jesus and all of those things. That's our intention, is that people will see Jesus better and clearer in doing all of these things.
Yes. And I think the way we model that often is through community. I mean, we always kind of joke that it's in our name, but I mean, we're adding more community space.
We're doing things for the visual community online.
Yeah, even that side room will have more opportunity for community off of the stage, and having the worship team have a space for community, and the children's team having their own, or all being in the same place. Like the vision of community and using the way, I mean, God truly uses community to do His work.
And we're using. The building is becoming more usable, and even our auditorium is being used for community outreach and things like that. And school districts are using it every once in a while, and so it's just things like that are bringing people into the church where we can love on them and show them the love of Jesus. So.
Get them comfortable coming through the door. Yeah. And as Brenton was saying, I mean, as far as things in children's went for the year, I mean, I think we had an excellent VBS. That was prime in the center of a lot of construction stuff.
Yeah. And we pulled it off.
We did. And very, very little hiccups there. I mean, really. And then, I mean, you and I aren't project managers. I think we're the first to admit that, but that's kind of where we landed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because there was a lot of learning and humps and bumps to go through with that. Yeah. Like, I know my team had to pick up the slack for me, and I'm just very thankful. I just give my team kudos for pushing through and probably not getting all of the direct support from me that they require, and they continue to do what they do and move the kingdom forward. And so I'm just very impressed by that.
Yeah, my team was awesome too. Having to deal with me in the midst of all of what is still going on.
Yeah.
And just that many times they're like, hey, were you able to get this? Yeah, no, I didn't get that done. okay, well, we love you anyway.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. So thank you guys.
Did you do that? Oh, no, I did not.
It'll be done next year.
Yeah.
And kind of thing.
And some other big things. I mean, James got to take a sabbatical, and that really is a big deal. Time for him and Christina to get time together, and you did a lot of the preaching. Andrew picked some up, and Forrest picked some up, and
we tried to force you to pick some up. And
I did. I stepped out of mine. Yes, I did. Maybe
we still got you on family services.
Yes,
but maybe 2023.
Yeah. If we could not schedule it right before VBS, that would probably. At first, I thought I was gonna be able to do it, but then it was like very clearly I saw my schedule slipping away. That's a really cool thing, and part of the reason that was possible is we have a full staff.
Yeah.
A full pastoral staff anyway. And
that our pastoral staff is wanting to serve. Like everybody was pretty willing to jump in wherever they were needed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know Forrest jumped into preaching. Like, you need me to preach, I'll preach. And Andrew was like, oh, you need my help on the worship team? Let's do it. Like he was, everybody's been pretty willing to help out and kind of fill the gap that James left when he went on sabbatical. Much needed sabbatical.
Yes.
So.
The Mean Green Machine.
That was a fun video.
It was a highlight of the year. Some other big things. The staffing is a huge one. It's hard to talk much more about it, but I mean that is a big deal. When I came, I only know post 2020, and so I don't have a ton of experience from before. This is the changes of 2020, but. That summer, it was me and James pretty much. Or the following summer, it was pretty much just me and James. And so it's really cool to see that not be the case.
Yeah.
And so that's a really cool thing. And then just us being able to reach out and do things like the event Andrew did for Halloween, Easter egg hunt, and doing those types of things, we have the ability to have a little bit more reach and do a little bit more reach because we have great teams and we have a staff that has the bandwidth to be able to do that,
and we have a congregation that's willing to help put it on and help serve and help fund it and all of those things. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And then Andrew came on earlier this year. You came on last fall, but your first full year. Andrew came on this winter, late winter.
Yeah, he came in February,
right? I believe. Yeah. Yep. Right after having a baby, because he's a bold man. To move and reestablish with a newborn baby.
Baby, then boom, move.
Yeah.
And then boom, start a new job.
Yeah. But yeah, he did it, and we have college ministry again. The youth group had always continued on, but I mean we've seen that team grow to what. Bigger than I've seen it in a long time, possibly ever. Just a team that's bought into the vision and bought into building relationships so we can just better leverage preaching the gospel to kids. So that's exciting. Sunday mornings, the Bible study has been really successful. Seen growth there. We see kids driving themselves to the Bible study and at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I know some kids, and I think it's not a joke. I think they're being serious. They purposely stay up all night so they don't miss their alarm in the morning for Bible study.
I hadn't heard that.
Which I don't know. I don't know that that's the wisest move, but I mean that's a cool thing. I mean, an opportunity for those that are seeking and those that are looking for that community. Starting right away, pretty much right away in 2023, we'll have an intern helping both Andrew and I, which will be there's something that Andrew was really, really pushing for, which I think will be good. And there's vision behind that. Hopefully he'll have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that. But being able to take some of the load off of me and him, in the background stuff,
Well, then give him some experience too. I know
Exactly.
I talked to him the other day, and he wanted to get into ministry, and however that looked, he's like, I'm just willing to serve and want to be a part of it, and whether it's being a pastor, whether it's being a teacher, whether that's being whatever that looks like, he's like, I'm just excited to be here. So I was like, sweet, man, that's really cool.
So that's gonna be really a really cool opportunity and bring a new energy to the staff here too, which I think is exciting. His name's Josh, but if he's outgoing, he'll meet you. I'm not that worried about that. Yeah, and I mean there's a lot of other ministries that I think could keep this going for a long time.
Yeah.
There's a really cool thing where there's a lot of ministries at Orchards that are run entirely by volunteers, and they are very self-sufficient and do a very good job. The side effect of that, though, is we as staff, because they do such a good job, don't always know
all the ins and outs
of them. Yeah. And I wish I could speak more into some of those ministries that they are out there. We do events like the Connection Fair and those types of things to try to give the opportunity for those ministries to speak into what's going on.
But thank you for all those.
Yes.
If you're listening and you're in one of those ministries or you're leading that ministry, like, thank you a lot. Like, that helps us out because we're able to focus on what we feel God's called us to do, and you're able to focus on what God's called you to do. And it's just, I mean, it's the church being the church. It's awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Again, part of that community as well. So hopefully we'll be able to grow into even more of that and have spaces for those ministries that enables them to be even more successful in those areas. Yeah. So
I wanted to ask, what was your highlight of the year?
My highlight of the year. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Can do some high lows.
I don't know if we'll go lows. Yeah, we'll go lows. Highs and lows.
The first Family Sunday just felt really
so awesome.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And the next family services were good as well.
We started strong, man. It
did.
was so cool.
We did.
With Zacchaeus.
And yeah, the battle was against us for sure. Brenton was coming off of being very sick. I was right in the middle of being very sick.
Heavily medicated.
I was trying to time my medication to not have the side effects in the middle of service.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool. Having families together, just worshiping God together, us giving opportunities for family like that. That is a big thing that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so that was really, really huge. I also, in another one, because they're just different.
Another highlight or another?
Yeah, another highlight.
Okay.
Like VBS, the team was just really bought in. And just like whenever I walked around, it was just pockets of kids with leaders. It wasn't leaders standing off to the side, just pushing the kids through, kind of like cattle or whatever. I say this all the time to my team. I hope they hear it, but anybody can do events that kids have fun at. I mean, there's local clubs around here that do that stuff. The schools do it.
Yeah.
Even sports teams do. They have events that are fun. Anybody can do those things, but truly getting to know kids, that's the hard part, and that's the thing that a lot of those things don't do.
Yeah.
And I just the team just really, really got that and bought into that.
Yeah.
Everything that we do whether it's the games or the crafts, we do those things as an opportunity for us to be alongside the kids and I just thought they really got it. And I think I really think when I hear the feedback from those types of events and people saying that they really enjoyed it, and I truly think it's the connectedness. Like, nobody ever goes, oh, I love that event because I was connected to somebody. I don't think they put their finger on it, but like,
it was just like, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and I want to tell my friends about it. But like, anybody can have an event where we cut paper and glue it to something or whatever. Like that part's not that hard.
But it was being a part of changing lives.
Like, I left that event feeling known. I felt like I got a small picture of what Christ's love for me is.
Yeah.
And my leader told me they weren't perfect. But man, if that's even just a tiny picture of what Jesus is like, I want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. How about yourself?
I thought you were going to do a low. Are we waiting to do a low?
You want me to do low first?
Well, you have to do the low, but we don't want to end on a low, so you have to do a low, but then like spin it. Make it like, this is what I saw Jesus through, or this is how I saw Jesus. There you go. Yeah, let's do that. So what's a low that you had this year? And then how did you lean on Jesus?
Ooh,
yes.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Man.
I can do my high while you think about
let me do my low.
Okay.
Let me do I know what my low is.
Okay.
But just in case I can't spin it.
Okay.
Let's
I'll help you spin it if I can.
Yeah. I'm just in a stage of life where I don't have like old, before kids, and I love my kids. I love, spending time with my family, but it's difficult for me to work or do extra work with the stage that my kids are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if I do those things, like all the consequences fall on Heather. Like I understand that. Yeah. I see it. It's very obvious. And then so having the construction project this summer, and then like need to put, the times that I
had to put in the work.
Yeah, 2 years ago I would have just stayed here, and I would have got my other stuff done.
Yeah.
But the amount of times I just had to just be like, and I just fell short. Yeah. I just like how many times I had to tell my team that I didn't do something, or like I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
That was really difficult for me. And the construction, the just the amount of time, and you dealt with this some too, but tearing everything down to then set it back up every week is a huge time eater.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's like, it's one of those things like, I just did this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always your puzzle piece thing. Was a great analogy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it was like, even like the carpet was a good example, which is when you guys were helping me. The painting and the carpet were so close together that it was like, we can't move stuff until we get this room painted. But then as soon as it's painted, we got to move it over because carpet's coming in immediately after.
Yeah.
Like that was how a lot of that stuff was. So my schedule just started making itself. And I just felt like the consequences of that just kept kind of beating me down. Yeah. My positive spin on that is God doesn't need me to do any of that stuff. And honestly, I'm very thankful for that. And I hope that anybody serving sees that, and he continued to use me. He continued to use you. He continued to use the volunteers that we have, despite the places that we fell short.
Yeah.
Despite getting caught up in silly details of things.
Yeah.
Despite those things, the kingdom is still being moved forward. People still have a heart for Jesus. Yeah. People still want other people to know the good news and the truth that we have.
Yeah.
And it's small beans, but it didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It didn't feel that way.
And your family still loves you, you know, like your kids still talk to you. So that's, you didn't damage that relationship or anything, even though it was strained for a season.
Yeah.
I think, at least for me in those moments, I'm trying to go, okay, I only have a limited amount of time. So I got to try to make the best of it. And I fail at that all the time too. But it's like, okay, I need to now make this extra special. I only have an hour to be at home, or this is my only day off. All right, let's go do something cool, stuff like that. So,
and I have nap times and stuff, so I would try to work when my kids were sleeping. But man, I'm tired too.
So when you said you have nap times, you meant it. Like you have nap times.
Yeah.
Like you're just
like me.
Yes.
Like like the kids nap.
Oh,
that was when I would go do work. So I was living 2 hours at a time, or an hour at a time. Then it was like do bedtime, get everybody to bed, and then come in at 10 o'clock at night, and and that was and I'm tired. Like it just. that wasn't as easy as it used to be for me.
Yeah. You're getting up there in age. I mean,
I know.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
an oldie.
Yeah. All right. I'll do my highlights.
Okay.
So I was going to say the family service, the first one, was stellar. It was so fun. And then just kind of seeing that grow into, okay, how can we make it better? How can we make it more appealing? Like all of that has been really, really fun. It's been challenging. I can still taste the horseradish from our last one.
Yeah.
So,
and I thought that one went really well too. Especially we picked I picked.
Yes, you.
I picked a brutal message.
I blame you 100%.
Yeah.
No, it was a good message though. It was cool to try to just think outside the box and try to make Bible stories appealing for multiple generations that are going to be worshiping together. I think it was kind of cool. It's been a fun challenge. So that's been a highlight for me to just kind of work with you on that and work with Andrew, work with James, or whoever it is. But that's been a lot of fun. The Halloween thing was pretty sweet. Like that was really fun. The worship team was crushing it. Andrew crushed it. Like it was a really fun time. And we filmed it and then watched it like a couple days later with the kids because the kids couldn't come because they were too young. And they watched it and I was just like, man, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like it was so cool.
Yeah. Even Easter was a lot of fun in that like things, I don't know that went exactly how we wanted to. We definitely learned a lot from it. But like we had to have Easter service like 3 hours after that.
Yeah.
Like.
And this building was packed.
It was packed.
Like, there were so many people here.
And so the cleanup, like just the logistics of it, I just thought was just amazing.
Yeah.
That part alone, how the people just that were helping stepped in. And I mean, move all the same thing, tables and chairs, like all over the place.
Yeah. When we didn't know where we were putting them let's see, another highlight. I really liked, this is going to sound really bad. And I know James is listening. So this is going to sound bad. I'm going to wait till you're finished drinking because I don't want you to spit it out.
Thank you.
But I really liked when James went on sabbatical. Because I really like preaching. I thought it was really cool. I was sad that James left, you know, because he's a good mentor and everything like that and good boss. But I really enjoyed preaching. And that was kind of one of the reasons I got hired was because I was really excited to preach. And so being able to step into that, like it was stressful as all get out. And, you know, this is the first time I've done back-to-back messages. And so that was kind of difficult. Or that was difficult. It wasn't kind of difficult. It was difficult. But it was really cool. And so I was appreciative of that. I graduated this year, so that was a highlight of me. I have a lot of highlights. Yeah, it was a good year. It's a good year now when you think about it. A low. Let's see. I got to think of a low. Yeah, I'd say the just a lot of the construction stuff, like seeing the construction happen and having the integrators come and put it all and see like hear the new speakers and be a part of that has been great. But there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people just won't be privy to that we're like, oh man, that's a huge low. You know, there was a lot of problems. There were a lot of trials, a lot of obstacles, budget stuff, all those things. And it was really, really, there were times that were really low, but to spin that, it was really cool to see how God used my wife or like our relationship, our friendship, or James or Andrew or Forrest or whoever, but mostly my wife, that would support me in those things, that would tell me I'm doing a good job, that would love on me, that would pray over me. And then God was so good. He would have a certain person come up and just say something to me that was like, oh man, I'm gonna hang on to that one. That was good. You know, I needed that.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Like to know I was taken care of in the midst of like a full blown sprint is what it feels like, a season of sprinting for months. And to know that, God's sustaining you.
And it was kind of strange because it almost felt like I don't know how to say this because James is listening. But like it almost didn't feel like he came back. Like it was just such a rush into fall that it was just hyper focused on getting all of the stuff going and and
it was like the
baptismal.
train was moving. If I can do it, I'm going to go for 2 for 2
Okay.
on these analogies.
Yes.
It's like we got the train moving, and then like we didn't stop and pick up James.
He just flew in on a
Like
helicopter.
we were just
Yeah.
like, dude, just jump on. Let's do it. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah, there we go. I feel like I nailed it. 2
Yeah,
for 2.
I think that's very and there was no stopping that train. Yeah, it was just right back
It's a
into
country
it.
song, I think. Right? No stopping the. No, whatever. I ruined it.
Maybe
Dang it.
make a country. You can make a country song about it.
I could.
Why don't you reveal to the
No.
no
We're not even
not gonna go there. Oh, darn
No,
it.
people aren't gonna know it. Oh goodness.
Darn. Okay, well,
well. Everybody's like, "What the heck are they laughing
yeah,
about?"
that's okay.
Yeah, you don't need to know. That's just for me and Wesley. Okay. Okay. I have another question for you.
You gotta go. Oh yeah, you did. That was your low. Okay.
Yeah, that was my low.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite sermon that I preached? No.
That you preached.
What's your favorite sermon, or favorite series, or like what? What was it?
That's a tough one. And this isn't because this one, I think I talked about this in the podcast. Just talking about Joseph, just always strikes me like
Advent 3, right? Home for Christmas.
yeah,
I think.
yeah. That one it does. I mean, James did a similar sermon last year. Not that it was copy and paste. I don't want to imply that it was copy and paste because it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
It's just that the Christmas story is the Christmas story. But yeah, you just don't have a lot, and there's just a lot of things that you can assume about Joseph that and I talked about that just isn't necessarily true. But the truth is we just don't know, and
Yeah.
there's just father figures are an important thing. And for whatever reason, we're left to wonder on that particular father figure. And it's just an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It seems like he was an absolute stand-up guy. And it doesn't appear that changed because he takes Mary as his wife. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that one definitely stands out. I was at a pretty low point during your Thanksgiving message, so that one hit me in the feels pretty hard.
Sorry. I think you were the one that did the midpoint on that, right?
I was,
and you were
yeah.
like, I was really mad at
I
you.
was really angry. Yeah. That one unfortunately struck me harder. And that was just, I mean, not that it was a generic message, but I mean, it was but yeah, that one definitely got me.
We're gonna stick with Joseph. That was good. That way we can still be friends.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the finishing off Luke. Not that we're like, I don't want to. That sounds like I'm like, oh, I'm glad we're done. But I really liked the Luke study. Like, it was really cool. There were a lot of things in there that I just never, like, you have passages where you just kind of read over it to get to the good part. You look at certain passages and you're like, oh yeah, I don't need to know what this means. I'm going to get to the part where Jesus heals somebody, and we couldn't do that. Like the way the style of the exegetical preaching is, you go through each passage, and so you're having to hit those, and then like, okay, now I do a message on that part that people skip, and then seeing like, oh wow, that was important. Like that was kind of cool. So I really liked the Luke series. Ruth was pretty cool. I liked that. It's a good study. Yeah, those are mine. I would have said your sermon that you preached, but
yeah, the Father's Day message I never did.
Yeah. Oh, maybe next year.
Who picked that up? Did Andrew pick that up for me? Did Forrest? Who picked that up for me?
Oh, we didn't do a Father's Day one, did we?
Or did we just shovel the?
I think we did the Luke series.
We just
over it.
Moved the.
So we said Happy Father's Day. Turn in your Bibles to Luke chapter whatever it was. Yeah. I think that's what we did. I don't know.
I think you're right.
Okay.
I think that is.
I think we did a Mother's Day message, but we did not do. No, we didn't do a Mother's Day message. We did. It was another passage in Luke. So I don't know. Maybe next year we'll do individual messages.
Yeah, and unless we want to drag out a series for 5 years, there's
Yeah.
There's a necessity of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. You have to sacrifice some things just to make sure we're preaching the word. All right. Any other final thoughts as we head into 2023?
I can prep us for a Forrest message.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is January 1st.
Which is going to be January 1st.
It's going to be in a couple days.
Yes, in a couple of days.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple more days from us, but we're speaking to you from the past in the future.
Okay. That was great.
Yeah.
We didn't even practice that.
Yes.
That was solid.
Yeah, so he's going to be talking about foundations over resolutions, just to be a doer, and resolutions always involve some doing, and that's the hard part about resolutions. But putting our resolutions, or if you do such things, but just being in the foundations of faith, prayer and devotion, worship, those types of things. So it's an exciting message. He's going to be digging into James 1. He'll be, I think you can do the whole read. He'll be talking about, I think, from verse 19 on. But a good read if you want to go into that. And then
so read James 1. That's your homework. Read James 1.
Yep. And then I think as far as things to pray for, I mean, I don't want to get too caught up in resolution stuff, but I mean, we're coming out of the holiday season and into a new year with a lot of changes, and just be praying for orchards and that we can continue to be part of kingdom work.
Yeah. I did have a question now that we're here.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're running the show. So
that's right.
You guys can log off if you want, but Wesley and I will be here talking.
That's right.
Do you do New Year's resolutions?
I do not.
No?
No, not
Have
really.
you done them in the past? Like when did you stop doing it?
I don't know. I will admit, I don't know that I ever have.
Okay.
Like
ever?
Yeah, I really don't. There's part of me that like knows I probably should, but I'm not going to.
Gotcha.
And the logical side of me says, then like, don't lie to yourself about it.
You're just gonna let yourself down.
You're just gonna, yeah. I mean, all jokes aside, that is kind of true. I also, I would say, dangerously get caught up in the hope of a new year.
Okay.
My wife and I are very different in that, like, oh man, now I'm going to mess this up. How we are opposite. I tend to find little moments as being like, I don't get too worked up about things, but like, even in this job, like, leave a Sunday morning and be like, man, like, things went well. All of that was great. We have these events, and it's like, oh man, that felt really great. And in those things, I just see the positive in those small things. And I see the positives in moments, especially looking back. But when I look at a year as a whole, I tend to be very negative.
Okay.
I tend to sum things up by, like, I entered the year with this stuff or whatever, and then I exited the year, and if it's not more, I'm disappointed. It's a struggle that I have.
So are you kind of saying that like your New Year's resolutions are like those benchmarks that you can see your failures?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And then, where my wife is very much the opposite, where in the big picture she's very positive, but sometimes in the smaller moments she's less positive. And that's not always the truth. But we work well together. But the way I view a year, there's a danger for me in the hope of change, which is also why, because like more so, if I were to set a resolution, I think I would tell myself that it's going to make my life better. Does that make sense? Like that's a really real danger for me.
Okay.
Like
the trap for
A
you.
plus B. Yes. A plus B should equal C.
So if you do the resolution, then you're expecting your life to be better, and it may not necessarily make it better, because only Jesus can make your life better.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, then it's a benchmark for failure. So either way, you're setting yourself up. So that's why you don't do it.
Yes.
Am I
Yes.
getting that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If there is any benchmark that, or any New Year's resolution, that I probably have ever set, it's reading through the Bible in a year. And I honestly have never accomplished it. I've started over many times. I've tried.
You're like, I've got Genesis.
I've
nailed.
made, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think this year I made it through Habakkuk. And I just got
Good
stuck
for
there.
you.
And I started Habakkuk over and over because I got stuck there.
Yeah. That's why you have the the U version where it reads it to you.
Yeah.
And you just power through those moments of like, man, I can't do this. Play. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do that some. That's probably the resolution that if there's one, that's truly probably because I have set that resolution before.
I think we all have. And
Yeah.
I stopped doing New Year's resolutions like a while ago. I don't remember when it was, but I think now I had friends back in Utah, who they did a word for the year that they prayed over themselves for. And I was like, this is silly. Like, really? You're going to have like, and I mean, not to say that God can't give you a word or anything like that, but that's not how I'm wired. And so they would say, oh, my word this year is Sabbath, and I want to be able to take a Sabbath and have time with my family. And so that was kind of like their focus. That's what they were going to pray over. And I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like I had a little bit of skepticism, and that year I gave myself the word, what was it? Confidence. Because I was just praying like, oh, God, I want to be confident of what God's doing. Like that was just the word that popped into my head. And I was like, okay. And that was the year that I moved here and had all my stuff in Utah that led me to coming out here. And in the process of all of that, what was going on, they were like, that's why your word was confidence, because you need to be confident in God. You need to be, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, you need to be confident in yourself. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, so I'm more of a believer of that. This year, the word for me was peace. So I don't really have a word for next year yet.
that word hits home a little bit.
Like it's like, oh man,
that was a good word for this year.
Yeah, it was a really good word. So that was the word for that you pray over it for a little bit and say, okay, God, give me a word that I can pray for this year. So I'll probably do that again coming up. But I don't really do the resolutions. But yeah, I might have a word. So maybe that'll come up next time we do a midpoint. I can tell you what that word is if I have one. But yeah, that's typically what I tend to do. So
yeah, that is good. That's a good idea. And I'm assuming both of those this year and last year probably had points it was hard to pray.
Yeah.
And so having that word probably was helpful.
Yeah. But it was cool though to tell people like to be able to say like, yeah, I need you to help me pray for peace. That was kind of a cool thing to just kind of rely on that of like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be praying for this every day or whatever. So it was really cool. It's cool to see what God's done through that. But anyways, I think we should wrap this up.
Probably.
How long have we gone?
An hour.
Yes.
New record.
Man. I forgot to say that one of the highest was this podcast.
Yeah.
It's cool to get this midpoint thing going. And
yes. And me and James talked about this last week a little bit, but like, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or like right before or right after. Mm-hmm. But just that, it's for me, it's nice to just reveal like, hey, I'm along for this ride too.
Yeah.
It's nice for us to just be able to do that a little bit too.
Yeah. Because you can't really do that from the stage. You know, especially for like James to say like, oh yeah, I struggle with this, or I'm like, you can't really do that because you're on, you're preaching, and it's hard to kind of fit that in. James does a really good job of being vulnerable on stage, but it's hard to do. And so yeah, this midpoint has allowed us to kind of relate to one another and also just kind of be like, yeah, I stink at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the questions have been really good, and so it's like reading those questions, it's like, oh man, like
I have that question too.
I have that question. Yeah, that's a struggle of mine.
Yeah.
All of that has been really cool.
Yeah.
Working with your creativity is enjoyable for me.
There's a sense of sarcasm.
The process can be frustrating for me. I will admit, but it always is like I'm just not a creative person. Yeah. I wish I was. I'm not.
I'm not a project finisher. Like I'm like super creative, and I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. And we get halfway through, and I was like, I don't really. So we work well together because you are a finisher.
Yes.
And it's been good. But anyways, we should wrap this up.
Yep.
So hope you enjoyed this week's Midpoint. If you would like to join us for service, we are doing only a Sunday service on January 1st at 9 and 10:30. I almost said 11. 9 and 10:30.
Yep.
No Monday night service, and then everything will kick back in this next week. But hope you guys have a great holiday weekend, holiday week, time off from school and all that stuff. Know that you are loved by God and by Orchards Community Church. We love you guys. Thank you so much for a good year. We'll see you next year.
Yes.